Thank you for taking the time to watch this episode of Life Support. If you enjoy the content, we would ask that you like it, hit subscribe, and share it with your friends.
The way people react, for sure there's a lot of bad theology out in the world.
There is.
But talk about those, how did you respond to those people who said Jackson's death and I suppose Grace's, they would assume the same thing about Grace, that this is somehow to do with your sin or to who you were, or what you were doing, or how did you respond to those people?
Different ways, actually. When I heard that the first time, it was another shock. It was like a slap in the face and then some. And I have studied God's Word since then quite a bit, and I felt very comfortable in knowing God's Word that just is absolutely not true. And I wasn't going to buy into that lie, and I wasn't going to buy into that theology. I responded to several people, depending on who they were, in a way that I hoped made back not a dent or a slap, but to say, I'm going to let you know that isn't correct. And I'm sorry that you actually feel that, because if that is true, then what you have around the corner, who knows what that could be for you? Only you know, and God knows your sins, you know what I mean? But I don't know what that means for you if that's how you really look at it. But I knew that wasn't true, so I got away from some of those people because I did not feel they were healthy for me at all. And I felt guilty about it a little bit because I don't ever want to be mean or hateful or rude to anybody, and I can see that they needed help, but I needed help in a different way at that time, and there was nothing I could lend further than to just say that. The people that were very strong about, even some of my family members, were very cold, sort of unempathetic, get over it. When are you going to get over it? It's been a year, those kind of things. And I find that, again, to be super sad. And I would cry even harder on that note, because it's like, wow, God, wow. What are people really thinking? How are we to really be comforters as Christ would want us to be, for each other? But I have had many conversations where I actually would sit down with them and say, well, I'm not ever going to get over it. That's not the point. That's not what I'm that's not the goal. And I think just getting through each day is something to look forward to. But getting over it, it's not going to happen. Every year there's a heavenly birth date and his birthday, and he died 3 days before Thanksgiving. So of course, every Thanksgiving, that's going to be there. You can't just erase that, that's there. And always at least 2 months or so before his heavenly birthday or his birthday, I get very emotional. And it's taken 11 years, he's been gone 11 years now, for me to really recognize that I'm starting to go through that season. It's just happening, it's just viscerally happening. Like, I would go on shopping sprees, just to make myself feel better, and then get home broke and go, what is all this crap? I don't need it, never use it. What was that? And it took me a long time to start realizing what I would do to, what kind of reactions that I was having to mask what I was feeling, Because how do you really grieve? I mean, do you just go upstairs all the time and cry and lay in bed? You know, I wanted to stay in bed like forever. As soon as he died, I thought the clock should stop. I thought people shouldn't be doing anything. I just felt horrible. And then to see everybody still doing things and watching movies and smiling and talking and laughing and doing whatever, I felt completely out of place, like I didn't even belong anymore. When we went to our Make-A-Wish trip in Florida, he wanted to go to Disney World. And the Make-A-Wish people were so incredible, but it was the first time I had ever seen other sick children besides being in the hospital, you know, with his radiation or those type of things. But you would rarely see them. They'd just kind of be in the hall for a minute and then go, and you wouldn't really know what's wrong with them or what's happening. But I had never seen that. And there were just all these children in such pain and had so many different various cancers and diseases. And I kept looking at the parents because I'm an impersonator of music and I perform, and I thought, can I forge that smile? Like, can I feel that way? Like, how do I do this? You know, I don't feel like any of this, but they helped get me through a lot of things to see the joy they were going to have, that they were going to live in that moment with them, whatever was happening. And they really helped our time be more, I don't know even how to describe it, just more precious, you know. And so I don't know where I was actually going with all that exactly, but just the fact that there's so many people on both sides really that can be such a distraction to being such a wonderful helpmeet, and how awesome God is through that the whole time, whether it be either side, you know. And if you have him, the relationship, just finding him and finding that hope in him through all of that is the only way I got through it. If I wouldn't have had it, I would be dead right now. We wouldn't even have this conversation. That's an absolute fact, you know. So I hope that people want to go to the Lord rather than being angry, because there's things we can't explain, and sometimes it's easy to blame God, or it's easy to blame someone else or yourself. You know, I went through that, and what was it? Was it the drugs? You know, could it be a sin here? Could it be that? I know the way they were describing it is not what I'm saying there, but even me in my own thoughts of what I had done to my body in the past, could it be this? But the research that they have done shows that it's pointing to a different thing, but I still have those thoughts. I still wonder those things, if there was residue of any of that, you know, and how could there not be? You know what I mean? So, I don't know.
I've noticed, just from knowing a number of people who've been through this, that there are people who live well with their grief and people who don't live well with their grief. Mm-hmm. And you have seemed to figure out how to live with your grief in a way. It's probably not any fun, but you've figured out how to carry it in a way.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know.
From the outside, it seems that way, that you're acknowledging it, and you're acknowledging that it's painful, always, but that you keep going on. Some people don't keep going on. They give up on relationships. They give up on dreaming of anything.
Right.
Of contributing anything. Having more family, or the family they have, they disengage.
Right.
So you talked a little bit about faith being an element of it, but is that it? What is it that keeps you?
You know, I don't know how it must seem, but I'm not, I'm working on things all the time. You know, I still have too many drinks on occasion when it's those times of coming up to something. for those dates. I try to stay moderate with my things, but it's still a numbing out process. And then I end up still going to God going, why am I doing this? And, why am I here? Why do I feel this way? When am I going to stop wanting to do this and replace it with just all you? You're just a God-shaped brain in this way, I don't know what it seems like, but I really do try to live for the Lord, and I'm not always very good at it. I really am not, probably. But I care about my child, and I care about being here for him. But sometimes, if I'll have a drink or something, I think, well, this is probably not good for my liver, but, this is a slower death than, just going off and hanging myself, and maybe I should just take it slow. Like sometimes you just want to die too. You just want to go, but you're living. And so you have to find that balance, and I'm looking for it. I'm forever probably looking for it. But I have hope that it is there. I have occasions where I do feel like okay, this is maybe a balance here, and this is, something I can cope with and get through and whatever and manage, Right after Jackson's death, my doctor wanted to put me on Valium, Zoloft. Zoloft did not work. I actually did feel like wanting to kill myself, so he got me on Prozac. I hated that. The Valium was a very low dose because, again, I'm holistic, and I won't even hardly take a Tylenol if I have a migraine. So I was like, I don't like the way this makes me feel, but it did mellow me in a way. And so I would even cut those in half, almost placebo effect at that point, because I would have anxiety attacks. I would just like, this is just too much, and people are just so mean, and, I'm just so vulnerable, and I'm walking through this, and just this, like, I just feel, attacked a lot, So, but I ended up getting off all of that, and so really drinking kind of was my go-to thing for quite some time, and I'm still working on that, pretty much.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I want to talk about Quinn a little bit, because he's your life now. That he's right in front of you.
Yeah.
But I think that probably Jackson and Grace have changed who you are.
Definitely.
Have they changed? How have they changed who Quinn is? How have their lives affected his life? Well,
Quinn embraces them like I do. And it's awesome because, Jackson, when he finally found out that he wasn't going to live, we had a really awesome talk about, this life, this is just a veil. We're living in just a different kind of dimensional situation here. And really letting him know how wonderful it was going to be that he would get to see Jesus before us, and all those wonderful things that we could try to pull from that to give him that hope. Quinn has that same hope. We've carried that over, and he knows that his brother is safe and happy. He loves that he's a part of his life. Like, he loves to talk about him, and again, he loves to wear his clothes or try different things. Jackson had a great sense of style, which was just wow, I don't know where he got it, just crazy awesome. And Quinn is finding that, and like the singing and dancing, he wants to try that. He wants to paint. He wants to do things and try things that Jackson did, and he's seen videos of Jackson. So it's like he's seen him in real life, It's not just pictures. We have a lot of videos and things of him, and him reading the Word, and lots of just different things. So Quinn uses those resources that his brother has been able to leave, that he has been able to do in just that 6 years of life, I think it's very helpful because even Jackson said before he passed, he said, Mom, I want a brother or sister. You know, I said, well, sweetie, I have to be married for that. And you do have a brother or sister already waiting for you in heaven, for sure. So you're going to get that wish right away, you know. But later when I ended up having Quinn, you know, Quinn even says today, I want another brother or sister, or help do this, you know, or whatever. But he's very happy with knowing Grace and Jackson are his siblings, you know. And I think it's been very helpful for him to not pretend that it's not there, or not talk about it, or make it something shameful for him to talk about, like, oh, don't bring that up, Mom's going to cry or freak out, or, you know, whatever. I think it's healthy all the way around, again, to be super honest and super real with him, you know. So I think it's been helpful, if that answers.
Oh, that's a great answer.
Okay.
You keep answering my questions before I ask them.
Oh.
3 times you've done that. But I'm going to go back to the one that I was just going to ask you anyways. Speak to parents out there who have a terminally ill child, because that's just a terrible small group you belong to, that you have to tell your child how to die.
Yeah.
What would you say to a parent who's got a child who's going to die and they have to talk to that child? What kind of advice do you, sadly, you have this equipping in your background?
Well, first of all, it's totally nothing easy about it. Nothing easy about it. For me, you know, 11 years ago, tabloids were still happening on a regular, and of course, me doing hair and other things. You know, there was magazines always in our house for the clients to look at and different things. And Patrick Swayze was dying of cancer at that time, and so for me, Jackson had read that, and he knew he had cancer, and so we hadn't told him that he was passing until he started asking if he was going to survive with it. We didn't just go to him and say, look, this is what, you know, he already knew something was wrong, and we were going through things and trying to have more time. We ended up having 11 months with him instead of 7, and a lot of that is not doing a lot of the chemo and also not doing full steroids either. But you know, he asked, and so that opened a door so that God could help me try to explain to him in the simplest, but in just the way that I could at that time. You know what I mean? Just trying to get that out.
I'm sorry this is hard for you. I wonder if, do you talk about this very often?
No. No, I talk about Jackson a lot.
But not the process.
Not the process. And I think it still bugs people. And it kind of hurts my feelings that it does when I bring him up as if he's just here like Quinn is here and we're talking about things. Yeah. Because it's so real and still alive for me. Yeah. But I do it anyway. But I lost a lot of clients. I lost a lot of friends. I lost a lot of people after his death because it was too hard for them to know what to say, or they thought I was going to be an absolute wreck or a crazy person, or, you know, and I may have been. Who knows to them as far as I know. I mean, you know, it's hard for everyone. It's hard for people to know what to do or what to say, and it's sad. It's so sad that not everybody wants to go walk into sadness every day. That's not what most people are looking for, happiness, yeah? You know? So that's, you know.
That's a good, was very curious about that, personally. You said you stopped praying for a while, which is entirely understandable. Some people stop permanently. Can you talk about why did you start praying again?
Oh, yeah.
So why did you start praying again? And
I didn't even start praying again in the same way. I think I have a different prayer life than I've ever had, really, to be honest. I was a little bit legalistic, a little bit religious with some of the things I did in the past. I feel a lot more free now to talk to God directly in so many different ways that are not always kneeling, but sometimes just in my whole self. I may not be kneeling, but I feel face planted before Him. I know that sounds really weird, but I want to be so for real with God. I need to know that He is, and He wants me to know that. So doing some of the things I did in the past and the way that I prayed has changed. It's changed.